What we are seeking to do is to alleviate, reduce those cost of living pressures by putting more money into people's pockets with tax cuts.
Tonight, breaking news, the federal budget set to be handed down by Treasurer Josh Frydenberg for the fourth and possibly final time in less than 48 hours. We'll let you know what to expect with the federal election now just weeks away. It's Sunday, the 27th of March.
You are watching 6 News. Also tonight, Australia set to ease more travel restrictions as a fourth vaccine dose is recommended for those aged over 65, with new details also revealing the amount of children and teens testing positive for COVID in New South Wales amid a push to relax the 7-day isolation requirements for household contacts.
And later, North Korea's latest missile launch puts the world on notice, but it's the way it was presented on state-run television in the country that has gone viral, with a Hollywood-style video showing Kim Jong-un in a leather jacket, dark glasses with video effects and dramatic music accompanying it. Good evening, everyone. I'm Leonardo Puglisi.
And I am Darby Travers. Later tonight, will it ever happen again? That is the question many are asking after Buddy Franklin kicked his 1000th AFL goal. Fans flooding the SCG as the Swan becomes the 6th ever player to achieve the milestone. That is coming up a little later tonight.
But first tonight, the 2022 federal budget is now less than 48 hours away from being delivered, and it may be the final that Josh Frydenberg will ever deliver. The Treasurer will hand down his fourth budget on Tuesday night, just weeks out from the federal election.
Right now, there are many analysts who believe they will determine his future. Will he deliver a fifth budget next year, become the Liberal opposition leader, or could he even lose the seat altogether? Political reporter Roman McKinnon has everything you need to know.
COVID, supply chains, Ukraine, and a flooding disaster. Everything that is expected to affect the upcoming budget. The federal budget will be handed down on Tuesday by Treasurer Josh Frydenberg in Parliament. It's expected there will be fuel tax cuts, one-time cash payments, child care subsidies, and millions for Ukraine relief. Mr. Frydenberg says that the ongoing war in Ukraine and the Queensland and northern New South Wales floods will not interrupt Australia's post-pandemic recovery. He states higher coal, oil and gas prices will benefit Australia as a net exporter of energy.
What we are seeking to do is to alleviate, reduce those cost of living pressures by putting more money into people's pockets with tax cuts.
Experts predict that the budget's deficit will be slightly lower than the $98.9 million predicted in December last year. This comes as the unemployment rate drops to just 4%, the lowest since August in 2008. Federal Finance Minister Simon Birmingham said the budget will have a firm focus on apprenticeships and tradies, with the federal government planning to double down on young people in the workplace. The soaring cost of living meant the inflation rate went up 1.3% in the last 3 months of 2021. The annual rate now sitting at 3.5%. But how can you save money? Simple things like switching to a cheaper electricity provider, using your car less when unnecessary, and locking in fuel prices can save households hundreds every month. It was also expected a cup of coffee would cost up to $7, with this person taking to TikTok claiming she paid almost $9 in Sydney.
OMG, I just got charged $8.90 odd for a cup of coffee. $1 extra for soy milk though.
The Reserve Bank is also set to raise the official interest rate from a record low 0.1%. This comes as Josh Frydenberg is considering a temporary and targeted cut to fuel prices to ease pain at the pump. You can find the full list of what's expected in the budget on our website, 6newsau.com. Roman McKinnon, 6 News.
Authorities say a 14-year-old Missouri boy died after falling off a new ride at an entertainment park in the US. Police responded to a 911 call after the boy fell down the Orlando Freefall, which is reportedly the world's tallest freestanding drop tower at 430 feet, or just over 130 meters. It is understood that the child, identified as Tyre Simpson, was visiting the city with a friend's family. Well, Australia is set to ease more travel restrictions, with overseas travellers no longer having to get a negative COVID test result to board a flight from April 17.
Comes as authorities recommend a fourth vaccine dose for those aged over 65, with new details also revealing the amount of children and teens testing positive for COVID in New South Wales, amid a push to relax the 7-day requirement for isolation for household contacts. Reporter Lincoln Holmes has the details.
For 2 years, border restrictions have affected Australia's tourism industry, but now there's finally some relief. Health Minister Greg Hunt revealing that beginning on April 17, a negative COVID-19 test result will no longer be required to board a flight to Australia, although overseas arrivals will still need to be fully vaccinated. The rule is set to be dropped on the same day that the ban on cruise ship ends. Today's COVID-19 cases continue to go down in both New South Wales and Victoria. New South Wales recorded 17,450 new infections and a single death, while there were 7,466 new cases in Victoria, and hospitalisation rates remain steady. However, in the past week, there were roughly 54,400 COVID-19 cases in kids aged 0 to 19 years old, according to New South Wales health figures. Despite this, there's a push to end the 7-day mandatory isolation requirements for household contacts of positive cases. Last week, the Victorian Shadow Education Minister told 6 News about the party's test to stay policy for school kids.
Can I just confirm you think if I, didn't have symptoms, cold or COVID, I should be sent back? Because we are getting, specialised tasks from our teachers. We are still getting the chance to learn from home. But, can I just confirm that?
Yeah, you should. It's our firm belief, after the past 2 years of disrupted learning, disrupted schooling, we need to be able to maximise the amount of time students have the opportunity to be in the classroom. A test to stay policy, whereas if you're negative or don't have symptoms, or you continually test negative on a daily basis with RATs or a PCR, as you say, you should have the choice of being able to go to school and learn in a face-to-face environment.
It comes as authorities recommend a fourth vaccine dose for Australians aged 65 and over and other high-risk groups ahead of winter, when some experts warn we could see both flu and COVID-19 cases skyrocket. Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
Returning overseas now, and while North Korea's latest missile launch has put the world on notice, the way it was presented on state-run television has been the main focus for many. On KCTV, a Hollywood-style video showing Kim Jong-un in a leather jacket, dark glasses with video effects and dramatic music accompanying it was aired, something not usually seen on the channel.
정보가 울렸습니다.
Analysts say that the missile is the largest liquid-fueled missile ever launched from a road mobile launcher. Back home now, the federal election is only weeks away. We are seeing more and more people announcing they're running as independents or for minor parties.
Yeah, and Jane Caro is one of those. I spoke to her earlier from the newsroom about why she's put her hand up for the Reason Party and why for the Senate specifically.
Well, the way it happened was, like a lot of people, I think, and certainly a lot of women, because we're noticing how many women are putting their hands up at the moment to stand as independents or for smaller parties like the Reason Party. A lot of people have been feeling very frustrated with the direction in which Australia is going, with the way that our current government is failing to govern, really, for most people. And so, I was feeling the same sense of frustration about the lack of action on so many wicked problems. And then Reason Australia rang me up and asked me if I would consider being their candidate for the Senate in New South Wales. And I knew a little bit about Reason, not a lot. I knew that Fiona Patten, who I've long admired, was heavily involved with the Reason Party. And indeed, she had amalgamated her original political party, the Sex Party, with the Voluntary Euthanasia Party to form Reason Australia. And so I looked into their policies and found that we were pretty much aligned right the way down the line in terms of what they were standing for and also what I believe. And what also attracted me was that they are a secular, evidence-based party interested in policy that is informed by experts and is designed to minimise harm, reduce suffering, and maximise and enhance people's lives, not influenced by any particular ideology or set of beliefs, religious or otherwise.
Obviously, Reason asked you and approached you, but you ended up making your own mind. That's your choice. Why you want to go for like a Senate seat rather than the lower house? Because when we're talking about, and you mentioned them at the start of the interview, the rise of women who are running as independents or for minor parties this coming election, and from what I've seen, they all seem to be running for the lower house. And you might be the only one who I can think of, independent minor party really going as a big name for the Senate. So why the Senate? Because we do know that it is comparatively a bit easier to get into than the House.
Well, it's not really now. They've changed the rules, and it's not from a big state. So in New South Wales, you have to get quite a lot of votes to actually get a Senate seat. So it is a big, hairy, audacious goal. I'm not under any illusions about that. But I mean, I did have talks a few years ago with the Voices of Warringah about standing for that seat when they were very keen to get rid of Tony Abbott as their representative. And mutually, we decided that I was not the right person to stand for that seat. And there were a lot of reasons for that. But one of them was, in fact, my advocacy for public education. And that's one of the most radical positions you can hold in Australia today. It's most peculiar, but there you go. And so that struck me as it would be an impediment in any of the lower house seats that I had any right to aspire to stand in because of where I live. And I also think that people who perhaps might want someone like me in Parliament are not restricted to a particular area. They're actually all over New South Wales and probably Australia, but our electoral system means that New South Wales is the area I live in, state I live in, and therefore the state I would stand in. And therefore I felt that I perhaps had a better chance standing and pitching to a much broader group of people across a wider area than just in one particular part of Sydney. And also, I think that is also part of the reason why the Senate feels like a better fit for me, because the Senate is the House of Review. It is, if you like, the bigger picture house.
Yeah. And just for transparency's sake, because I am big on transparency, I would just like to know, have you ever been a member of any party or campaigned for any party, prior to now?
Don't think I've ever been a member. I did in 1972. I may have been a member of the Liberal Party, but I'm not sure you were allowed to be when I was 16. I handed out how to vote Labor leaflets in the pouring rain outside Terry Hills Public School on election day 1972 to try and get Gough Whitlam elected. And indeed, he was elected, not because of me, I'm sure, but nevertheless, I was really keen to do something as a politically engaged 16-year-old. But other than that, no, I've never been a member of a political party until now when I joined Reason Australia. I've, always been engaged with politics and interested, and I hope reasonably well informed, but never actually joined a party.
The election is really just only a few weeks away now. It's been approaching so fast over the past couple of months. I'd love to know, are you confident in your chances of actually getting into the Senate? Because we know this election, as I touched on, both in the Senate and the House of Representatives, there are a lot of people running as independents or minor parties. You obviously have a bit of a more well-known name and face compared to some others, but I can imagine it would still be a challenge. So yeah, are you confident in your chances?
Well, I'm absolutely giving it everything I've got. I'd really like to win and get a seat in the Senate. I think I've got as good a chance as anyone who is not from one of the major parties, or even from the Greens or UAP, or has a whole heap of money behind them, as some of the other people will have. I wouldn't say I'm 100% confident that I'll win, but I am confident that I will have as good a chance as anyone who's standing from a small party, and perhaps better than some. And so I'm raring to go and putting every ounce of my energy into the run. I've got a great team behind me who are all working their guts out. And I really think it's important. One of the things I think I am confident about is that we have to have, if we've got a more progressive House of Representatives after the, as you say, rapidly approaching election, which, if the polls are correct, looks like we might, then what we desperately need is a progressive Senate, because we won't get the change we need to have if we've got a progressive House of Reps but a reactionary Senate. And given some of the people who are standing for the Senate, some of whom have got a lot of money behind them indeed, that is a real risk. So I was aware that we needed some progressives to stand to help to ensure that we get the change we need as a whole of government exercise.
To Sport News now, and News Corp reports Shane Warne's memorial may be Australia's biggest ever broadcast event, with a potential audience of hundreds of millions of people. They report that the memorial, which is on Wednesday, will be streamed into multiple countries live, including India, Pakistan and Britain, in addition to it airing on Australian free-to-air networks and on Foxtel. Shane Warne died earlier this month at the age of 52.
And changing pace now, will it ever happen again? That's the question many are asking after Buddy Franklin kicked his 1,000th AFL goal. Fans flooded the SCG after the Swan became the 6th ever player to achieve the milestone, joining Tony Lockett, Gordon Coventry, Jason Dunstall, Doug Wade and Gary Ablett Sr. 580 of those goals were kicked at Hawthorn from his debut up until the end of 2013, the remaining 420 kicked at Sydney. Here is the moment that it happened, with fans rushing onto the ground even before the ball had sailed through the goalposts. And Darby, what an incredible moment that was. I mean, how good it would have been to be there.
It was absolutely incredible scenes at the SCG, and just seeing all of the people running onto the ground after Buddy kicked his 1,000th goal. It was, something very special.
You would have loved to be there. And now he's Ivan and Melly with Look What's Coming Up later tonight on WAMN News.
Thanks, Leo. Tonight on WAMN News, Mark McGowan urged to cut the cost of living with long-term plans to drive down household fees in the next state budget. A WAMN News exclusive.
Also tonight, planning to sue. Gun shop owners outraged over ownership data published as the government pushed to update firearm legislation.
Damning report, Crown unfit to run Perth's casino following findings by the Royal Commission.
FIFO Mental Health Advocates campaign makes an impact as an Archibald Prize portrait of him is presented to Rio Tinto. Plus, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment. Join us tonight on the WMN News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
All right, thanks both Ivan and Melly there.
Now to tomorrow's weather forecast right across the country, starting in Brisbane, thunderstorms expected, getting to 23 also in Sydney, 24 in the nation's capital Canberra, partly cloudy, 24 in Melbourne, getting to a top of 20 in Hobart, 25 in Adelaide, 35 in the Alice, 28 in Perth, and in Darwin a warm but wet top of 32.
And just before we go tonight, just another reminder to tune into 6 News live this Tuesday at 7:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Time for our coverage of Treasurer Josh Frydenberg's budget speech in Derby. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out with the election in just a couple of weeks.
It will, big election, and no doubt full coverage right here on 6 News.
Absolutely, and that is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with all the latest headlines by heading to our website, 6newsau.com, and by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Lit. Just search 6 News AU. Find us. I'm Leonardo Puglisi.
And I am Darby Travers. Thanks so much for your company. Good day.